The Predynastic period of Egypt, also known as the Primitive Era, spans from around 5500 BC to 3100 BC, when the Old Kingdom began. During this time period, nomadic tribes inhabiting the Nile Delta and Upper Egypt began to settle and establish increasingly complex agricultural practices. During the Predynastic period, societies were structured into tiny farming villages that focused on food production. Along the Nile River, which supplied a continual source of water and fertile area for cultivation, agriculture was practiced. The Egyptians of Predynastic times cultivated wheat, barley, lentils, peas, flax, and other crops. During this historical period, the first forms of art and architecture appeared in Egypt. The Predynastic Egyptians created figurines and other ornamental artifacts from stone, ivory, and ceramics. Moreover, they constructed adobe houses to shelter their community. Each tribe or tiny kingdom headed by its own chief or monarch comprised Predynastic society. Several of these rulers were able to unite their regions under a single monarch after fighting for control of territory and resources. Throughout the Predynastic period of Egypt, the region was divided into petty kingdoms and tribes that competed for land and resources. Narmer, who is thought to have formed the first dynasty approximately 3100 BCE, was one of these leaders. The famous Palette of Narmer is a ceremonial stone plaque that symbolizes the unification of Egypt under his leadership. The Narmer Palette is a one-of-a-kind work of art and one of the most significant objects in Egyptian art history. It is thought that it was built to celebrate Narmer's victory over his foes and the union of Upper and Lower Egypt under his rule. On the canvas, Narmer holds the crown of Lower Egypt in one hand and the battle mace in the other, while his rival falls at his feet. On the reverse of the palette, Narmer is seen wearing the crown of Upper Egypt, indicating his success in uniting the two provinces. The unification of Egypt under Narmer initiated the First Dynasty and established the Pharaonic Kingdom. The First Dynasty of Egypt spanned from 3100 BCE to 2890 BCE and was marked by the construction of massive tombs and the establishment of a hierarchical and stratified society. During this time, the pharaohs were regarded as living gods and held accountable for maintaining social balance and peace. After Narmer unified Egypt, the First Dynasty ruled for approximately 210 years, until 2890 BC. Important monuments such as huge tombs and burial complexes were constructed during this time, representing the pharaohs' increasing wealth and authority. Moreover, Period 1 was marked by the birth of hieroglyphic writing and a hierarchical and stratified society. Ancient Egyptians used a writing system known as hieroglyphics. Hieroglyphics represented objects, activities, and concepts and might be written from left to right to left, or bottom to top. In addition to hieroglyphs, the ancient Egyptians also used hieratic and demotic, two forms of simpler script. As it permitted the conveyance of information and knowledge, hieroglyphic writing was crucial to Egyptian civilization. It was employed on a range of media, including wall inscriptions, stelae, administrative and literary texts. Only scribes, who were members of the educated elite, could read and write hieroglyphics because of their complexity. Hierarchical and stratified, Egyptian civilization was dominated by a ruling class. The pharaohs were revered and venerated by the entire populace since they were considered divine and had a divine position. The ruling elite included the royal family, high-ranking bureaucrats, priests, and the military. The ruling elite was followed by the middle class, which consisted of artisans, merchants, and prosperous peasants. Craftsmen were highly esteemed in Egyptian society due to the importance of their work in the production of ceremonial and sacred goods, as well as the construction of large tombs and funerary complexes. Although trade was essential to Egypt's economy, merchants also played a significant role in Egyptian society. The bulk of Egyptians belonged to the lower class, which consisted of impoverished peasants, workers, and slaves. The peasants were responsible for cultivating the land and providing enough food to sustain the people. The laborers were employed in the construction of the massive Egyptian structures, whilst the slaves were typically prisoners of war or debtors. Regarding the economy, the majority of Predynastic Egyptians were farmers and herders. They farmed a range of crops, including wheat, barley, flax, and vegetables, and kept cows, sheep, and goats as livestock. The indigenous resources, such as obsidian and limestone, dominated trade. Tribal chiefs and monarchs controlled the production and distribution of food and other items, and hence also controlled the resources. Religion and politics had a substantial impact on the economy. After the end of the First Dynasty in Egypt, the Second Dynasty was created around 2890 BC. Hotep-Sekhemwy, who is thought to have unified Upper and Lower Egypt during his reign, established this dynasty. During this period, Egyptian pharaohs began constructing enormous tombs in Abydos, which would become an important religious center throughout the pharaonic period. The tomb of Hotep-Sekhemwy, discovered at Saqqara, is among the earliest specimens of this architectural style. Several pharaohs of the Second Dynasty waged military operations in Nubia, where they gathered gold, ivory, and other important resources, in order to increase their dominance over Egyptian territory. In addition, a number of significant structures were constructed during this time, notably the Temple of Seti I at Abydos and the Pyramid of Djoser at Saqqara. Nubians were an ethnic group that lived south of Egypt in the Upper Nile region. Since predynastic times, the Nubians have contributed significantly to the Egyptian economy by giving gold, ivory, and other precious resources. Nubians also played a significant role as mercenaries in Egyptian armies, and some Nubians advanced to positions of authority in the Egyptian government. During the Middle Kingdom, Egyptian pharaohs conducted multiple military expeditions in Nubia in an effort to extend their realm and gain control of the region's resources. Ka-Sekhemwy, one of the most well-known pharaohs of the Second Dynasty, constructed a massive stronghold in Nubia to secure the Egyptian frontiers. All objects and nature were believed to be animated by spirits and deities, according to Egyptian religion. The Egyptians thought that these deities possessed immense power and governed many aspects of daily life, including the weather, harvest, and fertility. They believed in the afterlife and venerated a variety of local gods and goddesses. During time, the Egyptians developed a more complicated and organized religion, which eventually evolved into polytheism. Many gods and goddesses, each with their own area of influence and distinctive traits, were venerated in this religion. As an illustration, Ra was the sun god, Osiris was the deity of death and rebirth, Isis was the goddess of motherhood and fertility, and Horus was the god of the sky and kingship. Religion was integral to daily life and the authority of tribal chiefs and rulers. Tribal leaders and monarchs were viewed as mediators between the gods and the people, and were regarded with divine authority to make judgments on the gods' behalf. In appreciation of the gods and goddesses, they also constructed temples and monuments and employed priests to perform religious rituals and ceremonies. Religion was a key aspect of ancient Egyptian society and played a crucial influence in the social and political structure of the country. In approximately 2686 BC, Djoser founded the Third Dynasty of Egypt, which marked the beginning of the Old Kingdom. Thanks for watching and subscribe.